British Prime Minister David Cameron has set out a 5-year strategy to defeat what he calls the poison of Islamist extremism in Britain. He said some British-born Muslims had little attachment to British society and blamed the failures of integration for making hundreds of UK citizens join Islamic State militants. The government's new strategy would allow parents to get their children's passports cancelled if they feared they had been radicalised.
The message was aimed at British Muslims, delivered to a largely Muslim audience in a predominantly Muslim Birmingham school.
Characteristics are now as British as queuing and...
David Cameron believes for too long there's been reluctance to confront the arguments and bogus conspiracy theories used to radicalise young men and women. He made a direct appeal to anyone tempted by the cultish glamour of the extremists.
You won't be some valued member of a movement. You are cannon fodder for them. They will use you. If you're a boy, they will brainwash you, strap bombs to your body and blow you up. If you are a girl, they will enslave and abuse you. That is the sick and brutal reality of ISIL.
After the murder of 30 British tourists in Tunisia last month, the Prime Minister promised a full-spectrum response to the threat from so-called Islamic State. With hundreds of British Muslims already having travelled to Syria to join IS, the strategy is based on challenging extremism, countering radicalisation, encouraging moderation and promoting integration. But it's a strategy that comes with risks.
You talked about enforcing British values. How can you be confident that enforcing values about the role of women or the freedom of homosexuals, you won't actually alienate the very people that you're hoping to integrate?
Our values are so great that we should want to enforce them for all, including new arrivals, including people who are subject potentially to these practices. And it's only if we do that can we really claim to have the strong values that build a strong country.
David Cameron spoke of the failures of integration, pointing to areas where people have little or no contact with those from different faiths and backgrounds. There are places here in Birmingham, for instance, where residents can live in a cultural bubble, places where extremism can be quietly incubated. But telling people they must conform to British ways risks feeding the very resentment the government wants to neutralise.
How together we defeat extremism.
In a local Balti restaurant, a group of young Muslims had mixed feelings about David Cameron's speech.
If it restricts civil liberties, I think he may draw other people to the other side more.
That people will actually turn towards the radicals?
I think so, yeah.
I think the Prime Minister was absolutely right when he said that there are progressive or moderate Muslim voices that are being drowned out by those that are claiming that their Islam is right.
I think there's been members of the Muslim community that have been hiding certain things that are happening in Muslim communities. I think people have been afraid to speak out, and I think today's speech, I think David Cameron kind of made clear what is Islam, what is ordinary Muslims, and what is Islamic extremism, and he made that distinction very clearly.
David Cameron knows it's controversial, but he's become increasingly convinced that the way to defeat Islamist extremism is to worry less about cultural sensibilities and more about British values.